I love to watch little children. How they move, how they draw, how they talk, how they dance. It's all so unself-conscious. They're just in their own world and nothing else matters. They can be so deeply immersed in what they're doing in the moment that they forget everything else in the world. And they're curiously exploring, and they're playing, and they're dancing. It's just a delight for me to watch children in that state. And I wonder sometimes what Jesus meant when he said, "Become like children." Did he mean we shouldn't be too self-conscious, too limiting, too much in our heads, too logic, too cut off from our movements, from our bodies, from just being present and delighting in the beauty around us, and not caring so much about what others think, what others tell us to do, and all the constraints with which we grow up? I'm not saying we don't need that structure. We need it. It's just part of growing into it and knowing and finding our boundaries, what is healthy, what is not. We need all of that. But do we sacrifice this freedom, this just the delight over the structure? And when Jesus says that, maybe he means a little bit like, become looser, don't be so stiff. Sometimes the Protestant churches and the Protestant people have been called the frozen chosen. It's kind of, you don't smile too much, you don't chuckle, you don't laugh, and not in church at all. What if we're invited to live more joyfully, invited to enter the dance of all creation and just forget ourselves a little bit more and be in tune with whatever is moving around us, with the dance of the spheres? Did Jesus laugh? Did Jesus ever dance? We're not 100% sure. But we're getting really close to that. And part are the stories which Jesus told. Like when he drove out the demons from a demon-possessed. The demons got into the pigs, the hogs, the swine, and they ran off a cliff. It was like meant for people to laugh, just like him telling a great joke. And it's like, just by laughing already and by getting a sense of humor, you got out of this, it's also very serious in life. We have serious things. We have serious problems. We have concerns and a lot of that around us. But do we lose that other side, maybe, of our faith? That invitation that is out there for us? And our Old Testament is talking about King David, that he danced in all his might. And that happened when the Ark of the Covenant, this box with commandments of God, this sacred chest, the Philistines had stolen it and they got it back. So David was just fully delighted, King David dancing in all his might. And when God saved the Israelites out of Egypt and they came through the Red Sea, Moses' sister just led this huge dance, all the people dancing, celebrating that God had saved them, God had freed them. And the interesting thing is that in our scriptures, it does not specifically say that Jesus danced, but guess what? When Jesus multiplied the wine, when he turned water into wine, he was at a wedding. Guess what people do at a Jewish wedding? Yeah? At least, even if he did not dance in the dance, he was part of a celebration, part of the joy of life, participating in that. Now, the interesting thing is that our Bible has 66 books in it, like 66 separate writings. Way back in the years when these books were all compiled, there were many other books that did not make the cut. So it's like the Gospel of Thomas didn't make it into our Bible. The Gospel of Mary didn't make it in. Another book, the Apocrypha and the Acts of John, again, did not make it into our Bible. And we can have a lot of conversation. Why did some books make it in? Why did others not make it in? So it's a fine line and an endless conversation you can have. But one of those, the Acts of John, it's Jesus right around communion, celebrating Passover, where he invites his friends, his disciples, into a circle dance, celebrating the freedom, celebrating the relief, the release from captivity in Egypt. And if you ever felt shackled, if you ever felt in the valley, deep down in the darkness and got out of it, you may feel like celebrating, like dancing, like laughing. You've had the experience, all of you, that sometimes at funerals you think like it's the saddest, most painful experience, and it really is. But sometimes it turns. And like when we three brothers were gathered after my mother had died and we were preparing for the funeral, we had a lot of wonderful, great laughs. Like sometimes you think like you gotta cry or you can laugh. You have those alternatives. So sometimes humor helps you over those valleys. And that is beautiful and wonderful and part of that full life. In today's scripture reading, Jesus appears to his disciples, to his friends, and it says when they see him, they may think it's a ghost. So there are some ghost stories in our Bible. This is one of them. And it says very, very clearly spelled out that in their joy, they were still wondering, doubting. It was not all clear. On one hand, they had this great joy. They had seen Jesus. On the other hand, they were still puzzled, wondering, startled, not knowing what to believe, and still scared and still fearful, still sad. And in this stretch, I think sometimes we live, in between this joy and celebration of Easter and the hard, tough reality of things are dying around us, and part of us we let go, and part of us is dying. But I think and believe sometimes we as a congregation, we as people of God, may be a little bit one-sided on the heaviness, the dread, the hardness, the darkness of life. It's all there. But Easter, my friends, puts all the weight on the opposite side of that scale. When you feel like totally out of balance, they're down. Where is that other part? Are you willing to join in the Easter dance? What keeps you from dancing? What keeps you from laughing? What keeps you from living joy-filled? What is it?